great name for them to figure out that someone has to be careful with how they get it. Folks have kind of done differently.
Alrighty, welcome everyone. We will bring the meeting to order of June 23rd, 2020. We do have an agenda before us. Are there any additions? I think, yes, go ahead. Councillor King. Under Council and Committee reports, Dr. Ardar.
Dr. Ardar, please.
Alrighty.
And I'd like to give a drum solid waste.
And drum solid waste. Are there any other additions to the agenda? Any deletions? Oh, Councillor Christie.
I'll move the agenda as amended.
Okay, motion's been made to move the agenda as amended. All those in favor? And that is carried. We've pre-circulated the regular council meeting minutes of June the 9th. Are there any errors or omissions? Would anyone like to make a motion? Deputy Reeve McGee.
I move to accept the minutes as presented.
Okay, motion's been made to accept the minutes as presented. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Our first agenda item is 5.1, land agreements. Welcome, Mr. Buchart, and anytime you're ready. Hey, you got a haircut. Tupperware?
That was last month.
Oh, sorry. Probably didn't have to bring all that up. Anytime you're ready to go, Brad.
Morning, Mr. Reeve, members of council. The RFD 5.1 is for policy 1318 land agreements. Ensuring communication and engagement is the link to the strat plan. The new amendments proposed would provide a fair minimum rate based on the compensation of land purchasing, crop damage, burrow pit, and backsloping. It also proposed amendments to allow or to provide guidelines for fence compensation. So a few of the changes within the policy is the consideration of minimal payment. So the rate of $3,000 per acre, the minimum prior was 200. We would like to make that 600, so it is similar to the 600 for crop damage. And also the burrow pits was 500 at flat rate with a minimum of 200. We'd look at doing the crop damage burrow pits, minimal being the $600 an acre when we go in and need land or material from ratepayers. So those are some of the proposed changes as discussed at the June 16th Committee of the Whole meeting. And we'd be looking for council to approve as presented, council to approve as or as amended, direct administration to provide further information, or council receives it for information.
Are there any questions for Brad? Deputy Reeve McGee.
I appreciate your presentation and help that walking us through this when we were in Committee of the Whole. And so I'm very comfortable with saying that I would like to move to approve this policy 1318 land agreements as suggested.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve policy 13-18 as presented. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, seeing as not, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Next agenda item, 5.2, level of service. Welcome back, Brad.
Okay, the 5.2 RFD is for policy 1320-2 building standards. So as new amendments proposed allows clarity of the road classification as well as the guidelines and standards that are presented in this schedule. The policy outlines the standard ranges within the county roads are constructed or fully rebuilt. So again, we have schedules A through E. A being a rural local road with limited access, usually a dead-end road or an upgrade of a dirt trail to gain access to a property. Schedule B is just a rural local road, gravel. C would be a collector arterial gravel, D being the collector arterial chip seal, and E being an arterial collector paved. So we've, in the A through E, we've given options of what the minimal standard, what we'll accept for the county is. So it ranges from a 20-meter right-of-way all the way into a 30-meter right-of-way. We also gave a bit of an option for the width of the road. So 3.5 meter to 3.75 on the Schedule B. Schedule A would be a 3 meter, or a 6 meter, sorry. Schedule C, either 8.5 to 9 meters in total width on a 30-meter right-of-way, allowing us side slopes of 4 to 1. D would be the 8 to 9 meter on the chip seal, and the arterial collector paved would see a 9 to 9.25 meter top, allowing us to leave a bit of room if we wanted to do a lift on top of that existing pavement. So we'll be looking for council to accept this information, or to approve the policy as presented, or approve the policy as amended, direct administration to provide further information or receive for information.
Okay, thanks, Brad. We had this discussion in committee of the whole last week, but are there any questions for Brad today? Councillor Penner.
Just for my clarification, Brad, did you say a chip seal lasts approximately 5 years and it can just be done twice?
Councillor Penner, the chip seals usually last 5 to 7 years, depending on what the base is like underneath it. And your winter of, like last winter, the frost was so deep, and we weren't the only municipality in the province to deal with a bunch of chip seal problems. But usually, generally, it's 5 to 7 years. Then you can do a lift on top, and then you've pretty much got to go and destroy that road again, repack the base, and then go back with another application of chip seal. So generally, chip seal about 55,000 a kilometer.
And that's not including the base.
That is correct, Mr. Reeve, yes.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Buchert? Anyone care to make a motion? Councillor Christie.
I'll make the motion to approve policy 13-22 as presented, building standards.
All right, we've got a motion before us to accept policy 13-20-2. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing as not, call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Now move on to agenda item 5.3, policy 13-20-4, blade grade road standards. Brad.
So 5.3 RFD, we're looking to delete policy 1320-4, the county blade grade road standard. At the June 16th committee, the whole meeting was discussed. The committee recommended that the council rescind this policy. So proposing to delete this policy would allow having one policy outline the guidelines, which is the one we just passed, 1320-2. We would use, it's probably something like a B road or an A road to deal with situations like this. This policy was pretty detailed, as much detail in the design as what this one was, but I think going forward, having the one policy and getting rid of this blade grades do present issues later on, so we'd rather go stay with what's already designed in a 1320-2. So we'd be looking for council to approve this policy as presented, amend it, direct for further information or receive it as information.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Is there any questions for Mr. Buchert? Councillor King?
There we go. I would make the motion that we rescind policy 13-20-4, the county blade grade road standard.
All righty, we have a motion to rescind policy 13-20-4. Is there any discussion to the motion? Seeing as not, call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
All righty, our next agenda item is 6.2, non-county residential connection to rural water line. Welcome, Mr. McKiernan. And anytime you are ready.
Morning, Reeve, members of council. This morning, I bring forth the request for decision 6.2.1, non-county residential connection to a rural water line. The administration is proposing that a policy to enable a non-county resident the opportunity to apply and connect to a Kneehill County rural water line. Through some landowner inquiries as well as ICF discussions, it was felt that a policy to direct such things was needed to be created. Connecting to a rural water line isn't anything that is out of the ordinary, as we do have some situations already in place for that. This policy would follow what we currently have, as well as direct future connections such as. The proposed policy will guide and enable a non-county resident the ability to apply and receive upon approval a connection to a Kneehill County rural water line through their local municipality. The policy would follow the same requirements as a Kneehill County resident. However, there would be some differences. Some of those differences are the requirement to be adjacent to the line, not any non-adjacent ones. Paying the cost of such connection would be different. Process to bring council for approval, process of the utility billing, and payment of the non-resident connection fee. This was a discussion at a committee of the whole meeting, and I'd just like to bring forth one minor change that I made on top of your suggestion, was also the responsibility of the payer, and in the policy, I changed that from the applicant to the municipality. So we would deal with the municipality in receiving payment for the connection, the drilling, and that sort of thing. Instead of dealing with a non-resident, we'd be dealing with a municipality. So I just wanted to highlight that because that wasn't in our discussion at our last meeting. So I just wanted to make you aware of that before you discussed it.
Good catch, John. There are any questions for Mr. McKiernan? Councillor Kiever.
So this policy will still prevent somebody from outside of our county, like County of Mountain View, wanting to hook on?
Through the roof, Councilor Kiever, it would allow, through approval from you guys, the opportunity for a landowner in Mountain View, if they were adjacent to a water line, so they were kind of across the road, the opportunity to apply for it. But it would be Mountain View that would have to come to you guys asking on his behalf. But it would be up to council's approval on any of these. Like they would be brought forth to you guys for your approval before we went ahead and did any of it.
I was just wondering, is this someplace where we want to go? We allow one into the County of Mountain View, we're gonna really open a can of worms, are we not?
Well, from what I gather, there was requests at one point in time from Mountain View County residents to join into the line. When Mountain View did a questionnaire, well, it wasn't really a questionnaire, they got information from a number of people, and Mountain View made the decision that, no, they weren't interested in providing that kind of service for their residents connecting to Kneehill County. So, I mean, that option was always there for them, but, well, we wouldn't. I mean, that would have to come forward from Mountain View, so they would have to get a hold of their municipality to bring it forward to us, and then it's still our decision on whether or not it happens. Unless something should change, but right now that is the process. Councillor Penner?
Which is the same process even within our municipalities within our county, correct?
Yeah,
It goes through their council and
Yeah.
then their council comes to us. So
towns or villages would have to apply to us. Are there any other questions for Mr. McKiernan? Councillor King? Maybe?
There it is. I would make the motion that we accept the proposed policy 14-17, non-county residential connections to Aurora Waterline, which allows the possibility of non-county residents to apply and receive water from Kneehill County.
All right, thank you very much. We have a motion before us to accept policy 14-7 as presented. Is there any discussion to that motion prior to the question being called? Does not look like it, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thanks, John.
Sorry, Reef. There's one more motion that we are looking for through council.
Oh, sorry, okay.
And that motion is to accept the connection fee as $15,000 for non-residents, as well as the direct construction costs. And we're looking for this motion because we don't have it in the master rates bylaw. So through your motion, we'd be able to proceed that way. And then when the master rates bylaw came back, we would have that included for your review at that time as well.
Okay, sorry about that. Councillor Penner.
I'll make the motion to accept the non-county resident connection fee as $15,000 plus the construction cost to install the connection for the year of 2020. It is directed that the non-county resident connection fee be included in the master rates bylaw review.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion before us to accept as presented. It's on the screen in front of us because I'm not going to read the whole thing. Is there any discussion to that motion prior to the question? Seeing as not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously also. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is 6.3.1. Bowen, oh, you got in there really quick. Welcome, Mr. Clausen, and anytime you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve and Council. So this is a request for decision on Horseshoe Canyon. We brought this to the Committee of the Whole last week on June 16th for clarity and some direction for administration on which way to move forward with the regards to a day use washroom facility with small retail cafe and charge parking as it was budgeted for. Administration was seeking clarity on these, and as well, council was looking, or the committee recommended to look at creating a focus group to look at the Horseshoe Canyon Master Plan, which from it would then bring recommendations forward to council for future considerations. So with part of the discussions, if the three motions are still the direction that council would like to go based on the committee's recommendation, administration would issue a request for proposal or tender for the day use washroom facility and small retail space. But also council at any time prior to the tender being accepted, could decide to go in a different direction if they wanted to and just do, say, a washroom, though that would not generate any revenue and would not be able to promote the region or a county very well. Any buildings would require several studies as well. There is a road closure that is required, as well there's permits and all the general stuff that would happen for a building. So this would take some time, and with the road closure, that may take up to a year. Once plans were developed, we'd bring them back to council for acceptance and move forward from there. The second part was that administration could begin to move forward with some of the infrastructure on the paid parking this year. However, administration is recommending that the actual implementation would be in 2021 due to several reasons, but some of the bigger ones were timing. We're well into the season right now with the COVID-19 restrictions and the risk that that could put on a potential staff running that would be extremely high. As well, there's significant training that we would want to put in place, as they would almost act as ambassadors to all these people coming there. So we want them to be trained very well to deal with exceptional customer service and those. The third item was that with the task force, that we would try and develop a terms of reference to bring back to council for acceptance, and then kind of move forward with that group, utilizing funds out of the already approved 1.35 million for the day use washroom and retail space there. And that also is the financials. It's approved in the budget for 1.35 million for that, as well as there was 25,000 put in for the pay parking. So that's kind of where the finances are approved and budgeted currently. The options were council approve the committee of the whole recommendations, council approves the committee of the whole with amendments, or council receives this information. And then the recommended motions are at the top there. But is there any questions or different direction or?
Any questions for Mr. Clausen? Councillor King?
Someday, Mike. I'm just looking for clarification regarding the washroom retail cafe space. So what you're saying to us is that you're looking for permission to go and develop plans and proposals, and those would come back to us for approval at some point in time? Or I guess I'm looking for clarity exactly what you're, like, my understanding is we were asking you to go and develop some plans around what that might look like, and then come back to us with additional information so that we could then either choose to go with a more aggressive plan, or maybe ratchet it back to something like just straight up washrooms. Am I correct in that assumption, or am I wrong?
That was a different message that we kind of felt that was the seeking clarity at the committee of the whole, was to either move forward with that, or to go and look at the different options again, as those had been previously presented to council prior. But if that's the wish of council to go, and we can definitely go that way and
Okay, I
back
guess.
those options again. There's 4 options initially, so.
Yeah, no, what I'm trying to get clear in my own head is, I guess, the direction that you're gonna go based on what we're telling you today. So if we approve to go forward, you're going to develop plans and bring them back, or what's gonna happen?
This would be, yes, moving forward with actually building something, so that would take, however, whichever direction we look at and find, it could be going with a design build or an architect, but either way, those would come back to council before you would say, okay, yes, we're gonna go and build this, or maybe we should modify it or something. So this would be actually moving forward to build the building.
That's the clarification I was looking for. Thank you.
Yes, okay.
Are there any other questions from council? I think what we're looking for is just getting some options in front of us and saying, okay, we're gonna go full out, we're gonna do modified, or I think that's what council's kind of looking for. I don't know, is that gonna work for you?
Yeah, I can do whatever council wishes, so.
Well, you're pretty confident there. Councillor Kiever.
I think you might be wasting your time working on a retail space part, you know, I mean, I think we're probably all in agreement to, we gotta have washrooms, but the rest of the stuff could be kind of put on hold.
This, just a comment on the
Yep,
the
go ahead.
comment. Yes, there's definitely different ways. That option was presented as, there was 4 options initially presented to council at previous meetings. And the washroom, just strictly there, was kind of not the chosen one, just because the operational costs, and you had specified that council was looking for revenue generation, so this was an option to generate revenue there, but it could start out simply as just a washroom building, and then it could be created in a way that you can always add on in future years or whatever to that. But realizing that as only a washroom facility, there is no revenue generated, and it's additional operating costs to that, so.
Yeah, thanks, Bowen. You're right. If there isn't anything but washrooms there, it's wholly a cost. Councillor Penner.
I was under the understanding that you would be bringing us back plans that have those options, whether it's utilized right now, because sometimes it's costs more to add on to it later on than if we do it all at the same time. So I was under the understanding that the washrooms were going to be part of a building that we may be in the future able to offer some kind of a little shop or something, and that may be where the custodian works out of, that looks after it, just some options.
Councillor King. Maybe.
Oh, here we go. There we are, we're back. I guess if we just had a washroom building and we end up with somebody sitting there, because you're going to have somebody who's going to have to look after that place. I agree. I think our direction was that we were looking for revenue as well as washrooms. So if we just go washrooms, there's no revenue. So I guess I'll step out of the limb with the saw in my hand, and I'll make the motion that we direct administration to move forward with the day-use washroom facility, potential retail and cafe space as approved, as was approved in the 2020 budget.
Okay, thank you, Councillor King. We have a motion before us as on the screen. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And the motion is carried. We have another couple motions that are involved in this RFD. Counselor Penner.
I'd make the motion that council directs administration to move forward with the infrastructure changes as approved in our 2020 budget to accommodate charge parking, but to implement it in the 2021 season.
Okay, we have a motion before us as printed on the screen. Is there any discussion to that motion? Guess my question would be, we would have to have something built there prior to being able to charge for parking. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, Mr. Reeve. So this year we'd be trying to source kind of like a parking booth and then all the other things that are required there. There's power. We moved the power pole last year due to the sloughing there. So now we have power that's easily accessible. It just has to be trenched in. So it would be all the preparation and that, and then developing the training and things. But the parking booth we're looking into right now, we felt by going to a manned booth initially would be probably the best direction, as we could share our message a little better. If you put in a like automated pay system, you don't get that same messaging and promotion and helping to show what we're doing at the site there. So that may be an option down the road, but initially we felt that by having a man booth, that the staff would be trained to a level that they could kind of be somewhat ambassadors for the county and region, because they would get significant questions of where things are and those kind of things. But as well, they may get pushed back too. So having the right messaging and people delivering that, we felt would be critical for there. But kind of an aside off the building.
Counselor Penner.
I actually like what you just said. I like what I just heard. Because being it's down in the southeast corner, it'd be great to have somebody promote the rest of the county and what we have to offer, because that's not the only area where we offer some awesome campgrounds and facilities. So great idea.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Clausen? Okay, I guess not. Discussion's at the end, so I will call the question. All those in favor? And those opposed? Motion is carried. Still asking for one more motion, Councilor Deputy Reeve McGee.
I'd like to move that we direct administration to develop a terms of reference for council's consideration to form a focused task force for the development of Horseshoe Canyon, utilizing a third party to act as facilitator.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Reeve McGee. We have the motion on the screen in front of us. Is there any discussion to that motion? Is there a timeline involved here?
Mr. Reeve.
Yes, go ahead, Bowen.
We were hoping to bring back a terms of reference, either July, August council meeting for council consideration, and then move forward with the task group into the fall, or however that may work. But
Okay, great, thank you. Councilor Penner.
Just another clarification. The cost, we discussed around the 30 to 50. What do you, I didn't see that here, sorry, for the facilitator.
yeah, we estimate it's around that 30 to 50. We're asking for 50,000 to come out of that, the 1.35 million as for the Dayton washroom and facility there to be used for that. It may come well under, where it will depend on the extent of the terms of reference and what direction we really want to go with facilitator. It could go all the way to the 50,000, but speaking to a few consultants and stuff, that was kind of the ranges we got. There is some that are sky high too, but
Sorry, thanks, Bowen. I just wanted to make sure we're between the 30 and the 50, not the 50
Yes.
and over, because you had put the 50 in, but.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, Deputy Reeve McGee.
I kind of just wanted to make a comment to promote the motion, I guess. I really like this motion, and I like that you're looking at a third party, because I think ownership of our residents having this great facility or opportunity of Horseshoe Canyon is to be honored, and going forward, we really want to hear that our residents have been part of this process, and so thank you for bringing that forward.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion to the motion? Seeing as not, I will call the question. Again, the motion is on the screen before us. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, our next agenda item, 6.3.2, Provincial Campgrounds. Welcome back, Mr. Clausen.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Reeve. It's been a while. So this was also a recommendation brought out of the Committee of the Whole on June 16th regarding the provincial campgrounds that the province had looked at closing, as well as recreation area, 3 of which are in our county. So after the provincial 2020 budget was released, the province then announced the partial and full and/or full closure of over 184 different provincial parks and campgrounds and sites. 3 of these are located within Kneehill County, that's being the Blériot Ferry Recreational Area, the Dry Island Buffalo Jump Tolman Bridge Campground. The west side is on ours, the east campground is in Starland, but both are jointly to be closed partially. And the Bigelow Dam Recreational Area. These sites cater to numerous local users as well as visitors to our area. We did get notice that they are actually, the province will be reopening these sites for this year as a temporary measure. Beginning, I believe, June 29th is their date that they were looking at. So they will be reopened this year. As well, I did receive a reply back from the contact with the province, just asking for more information. And he was unable to share when they'll have that information. He said likely the fall. So we'll keep council aware of how things move, but I guess during that June 16th council committee of the whole meeting, the committee moved to recommend that council direct administration to actively pursue further details of what a partnership opportunity could look like at Blériot Ferry and Tolman West campgrounds. It is understood by administration that council is not committing to anything. We're just simply seeking out information at this point, and see what those partnerships could look like as we move forward. The options are council directs administration to actively pursue further details on the partnership opportunities with our 4 Blériot Ferry Campground and Tolman West Campground, or council receives as information. Also should note that Bigelow Dam was another site, but there was some discussion at the committee of the whole that there may not be interest in that. So that was left off of here, but council can add that to the conversation if they so wish to as well.
Thanks, Bowen. Are there any questions for Mr. Clausen? Comments, concerns? Councillor Penner?
You talk about looking into the partnership or whatever with the government, with the whole thing. at that time, would you look into a partnership of some kind with Starland for the Tolman? For me, it only makes sense that we would do something down there, but I'm just for clarification, please, Bowen.
Yes, through the reeve, Councillor Penner, yes, we definitely would look at, first see what the province is offering and as a partnership, and then actually talk with Starland too, if that partnership looks like it may be a good deal for us to look at, and then see if Starland was also interested, as they are interested in the east side, but interested in joining us on kind of a joint kind of management or whatever that may look like. So, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Councillor King. Good luck.
Okay, then, thank you, Bowen, appreciate that. And I would make the motion that we do direct administration to actively pursue further details on a partnership opportunity with the province for both Blariot Ferry and Tolman West.
Okay, we have a motion before us. Is there any discussion to that motion prior to the question being called? Seeing as not, I will call the question. All those in favor of the motion that is up on the screen before us? All those in favor? Opposed? And the motion is carried. Thanks, Bowen.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve and Council.
Is there any interest in having a break before we move on to our next item? Okay, interest has been expressed. So we'll go have a short recess prior to our next agenda item, 6.4.1. All righty, we'll bring the meeting back to order. Our next agenda item is 6.4.1, Emergency Communication System Upgrade Project. Welcome, Dan, and anytime you are ready.
Good morning, Mr. Reeve. Good morning, Council. We bring before you the Emergency Communication System Upgrade Project. I recommend a motion as Council to authorize budget amendment for capital project Bravo 1943 from $310,000 to $960,250 with funds from the Hamlet Reserve. The background on this, in August 2019, the RFP for Emergency Communication System Upgrade was issued for an assessment of our current situation of communications. The results showed we had poor coverage in all of the fire districts and countywide problems with communications on fire scenes, potentially putting our first responders at risk. The consoles and the towers that we use for these are from 2001 to 2008, so these are well over 12 years old. Normal lifespan for radio is about 10. Following the assessment of the system, an RFD was taken to Council in March 2020 to move forward with an RFP for a digital emergency communication system with AFRAX option. The result that we got back from the RFPs, we had 6 proposals come in, ranging from $428,000 to $1.7 million. The proposal on both ends did not meet our proposal specifications. The one on the low end wanted to use it for proprietary use, and the one on the high end was just too much, but they wanted to give us too much, so we didn't opt with that one. All proposals recognize that the core infrastructure assessment on tower bases and structures needs to be conducted prior to any work being conducted. This was not in the proposal. This is extra that we have to do before we have people go up and down the towers. All proposals recognize the upgrade for tower structures also needs to be completed on grounding systems and fall protection to be compliant with OHS regulations. So as these guys are going up and down, we just got to make sure that they don't test the laws of gravity, that we actually capture them and we don't have any incidents. The base specifications in our RFP was a digitally trunked radio system with limited AFRAX equipment. The digitally trunked system joins the 4 repeaters that we currently have. So we've got a fire system and a public works system. We're basically marrying them together to get the maximum benefit out of the whole system. In-truck radios and portable radios for all departments. 2 AFRAX radios for each department to bridge the gap for interagency cooperation as an addition to the digital system, with some of our remote neighboring counties actually on AFRAX. This gives us the command opportunity. We can still run our own stuff on our own network, but we have the opportunity to work with them and not have any troubles. The digital trunk system will be our backup system in the future should we transition fully to AFRAX. As well as contributing to the county-wide need for broadband internet capabilities. So we currently have internet service providers on our towers, which do extend the internet service to our ratepayers. Portable repeaters set up in poor communication areas. Some of these, even with the big towers that we have, we've got deep depressions, especially when you look in the Carbon area, Horseshoe Canyon area, that we do require a mobile repeater to extend the reach down into those deep gullies, canyons, and tributaries that we have. Antenna wiring and electrical equipment for new equipment. So the discussion. Results from the April 2020 RFP. In order to award the contract, administration is proposing to amend the budget to purchase system and components outright. Base funding required is $615,000 to our recommended proponent. Core infrastructure assessment, the base stability and fall protection requires $110,000. Repairs to grounding, electrical at all sites is $110,000, and we've included a contingency of 15% due to the variables as we go through the system of $125,250. Total for the upgrade with no new towers, this is just using our current infrastructure, is $960,250. In total, the project, for project Bravo 1943, we have $310,000 set aside within the budget. Leasing options, we looked into leasing, but we would find an extra cost of $75,000 to $240,000 over the life of the lease. So that's why we're recommending outright purchase. Multiple year purchasing was also researched. However, once we switch over, We can't have an analog and a digital together. They just don't work. It's just like when we changed cell phones from the analog to digital. The old analog phones didn't work. They had to go full digital. Financial implications. 2020 capital budget of $310,000. The requested increase to $962.50. Includes base specifications plus grounding and fall protection upgrades. Funds may be redistributed from Hamlet reserves to cover increase as recommended by Finance. Future impacts to operating budget includes replacement radios, capital equipment replacement, planning on tower infrastructure, and AFRAC's full transition in 10 years. Note, the future tower we lease, or sorry, the future of the tower we lease in Trochu remains unknown at this time. We currently lease a tower from the RCMP or space on a tower. It's an old, from their old repeater system. They've all switched to AFRACs. It currently has an AFRAC's tower right beside it, and they're looking at in the next couple of years of retiring that system. The degree of what happens there, we're still working on. So the options that we have is to extend the lease on the tower, purchase the tower that's there, or look at a cooperative agreement with AFRACs to move our equipment to the AFRAC's tower. Council options that we're bringing forward: approve the recommendation as we presented it, or amend the scope of the project. Recommended engagement, directive decision, the consultative decision. We did talk about this at the Fire Chiefs Committee in February 2020, so we have all the departments on board with what spec we brought forward to go for on the RFP.
Is there any questions from council for Mr. Marcellus, or Chief Marcellus? Councillor King? Maybe.
Right, I got 30 seconds. So we're talking $960,000 plus we are talking potential new tower in Trochu. So this budget could be quite a bit more than what we're talking right now, correct?
Through the reads, yes, Councillor King, we're looking at if we do require another tower, we have looked into the potential and there is a chance for that to increase by another 300,000.
So we're potentially talking like $1.2 million.
If we have to put a separate tower in, yes.
Councillor Penner?
You said that you discussed this with all the fire departments back in February. Has our administration heard anything from their councils, if their departments have taken it back to their councils?
No, we haven't. It's all been done through the ICFs at this point.
You gonna give it a try, Mike?
Yeah, so my microphone isn't working, so I'll try and talk loud. Other than through the ICFs, which were negotiated, not really any feedback in terms of directly from the council. So everything that was discussed was done as part of the ICF.
Councillor King?
So perhaps as a council, we should be asking for some of this to be extended to us so we could communicate within chambers since our microphones work so well. I'm supportive of the idea of where the direction you're going. I'm very non-supportive of where you want to get the funding from. We established a Hamlet Reserve for a very specific purpose to allow us to do projects within hamlets, and I don't support the idea of taking the funding from there at all.
Deputy Reeve McGee?
I'm in full agreement with that, Ken, but I'm not sure which reserve I would even recommend looking at, so open to hearing suggestions from administration about that.
Any comments from admin? Welcome, Bill.
I'll stand for this one. I guess when the administration looked at the funding request, we did it in the context of the report that was before council looking at multi-year reserves. The council is aware 219, or sorry, the 220 approvals did commit 700,000 of that money for future year projects. So again, there is money available, but there isn't significant monies available. So again, the premise was what projects are currently in that 5-year forecast? What is the normal financing for those type of projects? And based on that, the recommendation from the min is the one that has the most flexibility at this point, the least commitments, is the Hamlet Reserve.
Well, thanks for the information, Bill. Dan, a couple questions I'd like to ask, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to them. As far as getting any sort of grant from the province to help within communications of the fire departments, there's nothing available out there?
At this time, Mr. Reeve, no, we haven't found any grants that apply to this. They do have a trade-in program that does give us a little bit of opportunity. I've been working with the fire departments on that, and we'll have to work further with them. So we've got a chance of trading in groups of 10, but that only gives us 1,500 per group of 10 for the handheld. So it's a little bit, but it's not significant enough. Bulk purchasing with the going this way, there is opportunity to go direct to manufacturer. So we can work with the retail and the manufacturer to bring the cost down that way. But other than that, there's no grants for us to apply for that I know of at this time. I can look for you though, Mr. Reeve.
No, I'm pretty sure I had the answer in my head to start with, but I thought I'd throw it out there. As far as the towers go, there's gonna be some upgrades needed to the towers prior to any of this happening?
Not so much upgrades as just infrastructure. With the tower, you're supposed to inspect it, have an engineered assessment done every 5 years to make sure it's still straight, hasn't been affected by winds, your ground points, your anchor points haven't moved on you. It's not nice looking at a 300-foot tower that's supposed to be like this, but it's leaning like this, so.
Well, in Italy, they do it all the time.
Pisa's a great place to be. I've been in the tower, it's fantastic. However, when we're trying to talk, for a directional shot, it's great, but when we're trying to get omnidirectional, it's a more challenge.
Yeah, I wasn't actually being serious there. So that's not gonna give us any more ability to put any sort of internet infrastructure on these towers than what we've already have?
What we're looking at is, with this assessment, is taking off the load of towers that have been discontinued. So we take that load off, then we look at what kind of load that we can put on these towers and what they will sustain. So that will help us with the rural broadband. If we need a bigger antenna or whatever, we want to have that structure ready that we can apply that to it.
Okay, thanks for the answer. So there is a possibility.
Yes, sir.
Does council have any other questions, discussion? Deputy Reeve McGee.
I'd like to move that we need more information before we make a final decision on this.
So the motion would be to bring back further information. Is there any specific information that you would require, or just?
Ideally, I'd like to suggest we take a look at the COW meeting again and look at our entire financial scope around that and what other creative resources we have. It's just, I need some time to go through those choices a little bit more clearly to feel comfortable taking the money from where we're going to be taking it. I think the project is needed. It's just how we go about going forward is something I would like to spend a bit more